Hello, thank you for joining a new video. This time I have a comprehensive review of the Infinix Hot 50 Pro for you. Let's dive in. This device has made its way to Mexico with a rather unusual strategy. It comes in a single configuration of 8 GB of RAM and 256 GB of storage. What's peculiar is its price, as the announced launch price is 5,999 pesos, which is about $295. Keep in mind that prices here differ from there, but it's an extremely high price for what it actually offers. This device is being offered by the manufacturer. Interestingly, the same manufacturer is providing a discount today, bringing the price down to 30,999 pesos, which is approximately $151. This is a much more reasonable price. However, whenever a manufacturer adopts the strategy of announcing an initially high price and then offers a significant discount, it places me in a challenging position. In analyzing this cell phone, I believe I can say that if you encounter it at the original launch price, which is quite high, it is not advisable to purchase it. If you see it at the launch price, I would not recommend it. It is simply not advisable if you find it at the launch price. At the promotional price, I think it could make a little more sense, but let's analyze it point by point, because among its competitors, it has important things like the CMF phone. The Galaxy M35 in the same launch price range, so do not consider the launch price for now. You should know that in Mexico, its only official distributor is Mercado Libre. That is a small disadvantage, because if you do not like to buy online, it will be very difficult to acquire this device with the same launch price. Official release. In design, the feeling is much closer to the promotional price than the launch price. For example, we will find a little thicker bezels at the top and bottom. In general, it does not become very prominent. Plus, it does not incorporate Gorilla Glass or any special protection here in front, so it definitely does not become remarkable in design. On the sides, we are going to find plastic frame. On the right, the volume buttons and the power button. On the left side, the volume rocker and the power button. On the right side, the volume rocker and the power button. The camera module features an eye-catching contour, aesthetically pleasing. Interestingly, the cameras are above a secondary audio output, and on the left side there's a tray for 2 nano SIM cards and a micro SD card. At the bottom, you'll find the headphone jack, a microphone, the USB-C port, and the main speaker grill. The device is 7.4 millimeters thick, which is notable, as devices in this price range are usually a bit thicker. The device additionally weighs 190 grams, making it quite comfortable to hold even though it features completely smooth covers without any curves. The back cover is not only visually appealing, but it also boasts a satin design that gives the impression of a subtle texture when viewed. I currently have the blue edition in my possession, but it is also available in gray and black. The camera module stands out with its distinctive outline, which draws attention due to its aesthetic appeal and the intriguing design of the cameras themselves. The cameras appear square with rounded corners rather than the circular ones we're used to seeing on devices. From an aesthetic standpoint, it stands out as quite unique compared to most smartphones today. Personally, I'm not a fan of how the cameras look in this configuration, but overall, the device presents a good aesthetic. However, it lacks durability as it doesn't incorporate any water resistance level. So, I must mention that it aligns more closely with what you might expect in terms of design. The display is at the promotional price and not at the launch price. The screen is quite large, 6.78 inches with a full HD resolution that guarantees very good level of detail. It is 2436 x 1080 pixels. Reaching a density of 390 pixels per inch, so everything will look very sharp, including very small texts. And it also has AMOLED technology that guarantees us high contrasts, intense colors and good viewing angles. Of course, it's not a high-end OLED, but it still gives us very good picture quality, and overall it performs perfectly well, especially in the promotional price range, where it's unusual to see OLED displays. Also, in this case, it comes with 120 Hz in its refresh rate, so the combination of this display technology with this refresh rate guarantee a very good experience while moving through the interface and everything else. In terms of brightness, we have something positive to mention, because the maximum brightness reaches 1800 nits, although it doesn't support HDR, expecting that would be asking too much of it. Actually, it's a screen that performs well in sunlight. It's quite bright. Regarding the minimum brightness, it provides a very comfortable experience. It dims significantly and also offers us the extra dimming mode found within the accessibility options. Additionally, it has a high dimming rate. It has a refresh rate of 2160 Hz, ensuring that you won't notice any flickering when the brightness is lowered, thus preventing eye strain. So, no matter where you look, it's indeed a very good screen. By the way, I forgot to mention that it offers 2 color modes in the settings. However, honestly, there isn't a significant difference between them. Additionally, it includes a fully manual color temperature adjustment, which I recommend keeping at the default setting. Overall, the display performs excellently and could be a strong point, especially at the promotional price range. Regarding the sound, the experience will be positive due to the stereo sound provided by two speakers. One is located at the bottom and the other at the top area, featuring two outputs through both the frame and the earpiece for calls. The speaker delivers a quality that is sufficiently good. The positive experience stems from the ample sound it produces. Although the sound quality isn't extraordinary, it is perfectly acceptable for this price range, especially considering it also includes an equalizer. Here are 5 bands you can utilize to enhance your audio experience. Let's listen to a brief test, but keep in mind that listening to it live is a different experience altogether. This device does not integrate Dolby Atmos, but it does bring some DTS sound settings to have different presets. In addition, something that can get to highlight is that it still incorporates headphone jack, something that several devices are already abandoning. Or if you prefer wireless sound, you also have advanced codecs such as LHD in its 3rd version, and also LDAC. In case you have headphones compatible with this codec, you can enjoy high-quality audio. The downside is it only has one microphone, and honestly it's annoying. Usually the cheapest devices have just one microphone, but this isn't the cheapest. Let's listen to a test. This audio was recorded with a single microphone integrated into the Infinix Hot 50 Pro device.
Este audio ha sido grabado con el único micrófono que integra este dispositivo, Infinix Hot 50 Pro.
Like the truth is, the mic is, it's simple. We couldn't speak highly of it. Next, we will analyze its behavior in a very noisy scenario. Curiously, in concerts, I think you would still have a good performance, although you would lose amplitude because it is only a mono sound. But at least it controls its gain well, so that in these very noisy environments, you do not get to hear the saturated sound. Finally, in this block, the vibration motor is on the Z-axis, so it does not offer a very premium experience, but what is expected within the range. The front camera boasts 8 megapixels with an f2.0 aperture and a fixed focus, positioned in a circular cutout right at the center of the top of the screen. A pleasant surprise, which is quite rare these days, is that it features a front flash. This can be particularly useful, especially when shooting videos. We will soon take a look at its performance, but it's worth mentioning that very few manufacturers offer this feature. It's important to note that this camera doesn't have outstanding speed for quick captures. In fact, it is noticeably slow. At the very top, there is a button that allows us to load the color filters. Additionally, be aware that the timer setting is located in the additional menu. Regarding the capture methods, it includes a voice command option. Furthermore, you can tap on any area of the screen to capture, or you could choose to clone the shutter, placing it wherever you prefer, thus making it somewhat easier to capture. However, note that it does not have this feature by default. Palm gesture. Oh, and by the way, you can quickly access the camera by pressing the volume down button twice, but keep in mind that this shortcut is only functional when your device is locked. Unfortunately, this means it doesn't provide a particularly fast way to open the camera if the device is already in use. Now, the results appear to be more aligned with the launch price rather than the promotional price, which is why we will observe something quite positive in this regard. Indeed, notice the excellent level of detail it provides, along with the impressive color rendition. Additionally, it is a relatively wide camera, perfect for capturing beautiful landscape shots. Although, as anticipated, it is a fixed focus camera, it still manages to deliver good contrast overall, which is something rather uncommon in the price range. And observe, for instance, that in backlit scenarios, the preview isn't well optimized. However, the final result is well processed without overexposed or burned out areas. Indoors, the result is also positive, especially in terms of color, although we don't find as much detail as we noticed outdoors. At night, something similar occurs. It's advisable to be near a light source to maintain a good level of detail, but fortunately, color is a positive aspect. It strikes me that even in scenarios with backlighting at night, it performs remarkably well. It's completely superior to most devices in this range as it doesn't overexpose or burn out the brightest areas. And in darker areas, it maintains a good quality. Of course, there is some noise present, but given the difficulty level of photography, the result is quite impressive. Keep in mind that this device includes a front flash, which means you can use it to enhance the lighting in darker areas, even though the coloration is usually quite warm. Additionally, for a night portrait photography, you can utilize this lighting to achieve greater detail on the face. However, be aware that it may struggle with distinguishing between the foreground and background, which can result in certain areas remaining in focus when they should not be. For instance, take a look at this portrait photo taken during the day. The face retains a decent level of detail, and while the detection works well enough for bodies, you'll notice that objects aren't kept in focus. This indicates that it doesn't excel in this kind of photography. On the back, we will discover a 27mm camera equipped with a 50-megapixel sensor. The lens features an f-aperture of 1.6 and includes autofocus capabilities. Following that, we encounter a depth capture camera boasting only 2 megapixels with an aperture of f2.4, and then merely decoration. Indeed, the device appears to have 3 cameras, however. Only one functions as a true camera, while the other merely serves a decorative purpose. Assist for portrait and landscape photography. Another aspect to consider is marketing. It's important to note that in this scenario, once again, the experience tends to be somewhat slow, so it's not the best tool for quick captures. Actually, if you press and hold the shutter button, you can initiate a burst mode, but it has a restriction of just 20 pictures. Indeed, if you press and hold the shutter and then slide it to the left, you will start a burst mode that is limited to up to 20 pictures. It's important to note that during our test while attempting to capture number 3, there was a noticeable delay exceeding a quarter of a second. Therefore, it is definitely not a practical tool. If you enjoy capturing snapshots at the precise moment, the burst mode takes approximately the same amount of time to initiate. And also be aware that the interval between shots is minimal. However, you are limited to a very short burst of only 20 shots. If you tap the screen, you can adjust focus and exposure. It also has a pro mode with more parameters like compensation, shutter speed up to 30 seconds, ISO up to 6400, white balance, focus control, and metering type. But you can take raw photos. For smart capture, the document scanner isn't in the main interface. Luckily, in document mode, it auto-detects edges for cropping. However, it doesn't provide color optimization or options to add pages. Regarding QR codes, reading is slow, but it recognizes them directly in the main interface, saving time. The results with this camera appear to be quite positive to me. It's important to note that this is an outdoor photograph and it demonstrates a sufficiently high level of detail. The colors are also quite good. While it's not something super advanced, it competes well at its price point. Now, let's take a closer look at the zoom range. Here's a photograph taken with the main camera, followed by another photograph with 2 times zoom. It's at this point that you start to notice immediately that we are dealing with digital zoom. Now you're examining the picture at 5 times zoom and ultimately reaching the maximum level, which is 10 times zoom, where the quality noticeably drops. Here is another brief carousel showcasing zoom test photography for you to observe that this device does not particularly excel in this area. In scenarios with backlighting, notice that once more the preview is not well optimized, displaying numerous burned areas. However, the outcome is favorable regarding the balance of light and shadow, as there are no longer any areas that appear entirely burned out. However, objects or areas in motion might end up very blurry due to the multiple exposures you could take, so staying very still is crucial for these photos. Indoors, we observe excellent quality in color rendition, contrast, and more. At night, it has pleasantly surprised me. Note that the most illuminated areas are not completely burned out or overexposed, unlike what we've seen in other devices. Even more expensive, then it's a very good quality photograph. Of course, if you zoom in to try to notice detail in the darker areas, you'll notice quite a bit of graininess. But that's pretty much to be expected at the price point. Overall, the picture looks very good to me. Oddly enough, if you use the night mode, if you can overexpose the brightest areas, and even though it controls the grain a little better, it still doesn't show too much detail. So I would recommend taking the pictures more with the automatic mode than with the night mode. In the darker areas where there is no light source present within the frame, the result can be much lower in terms of the level of detail and photo quality. And even with night mode, some artifacts will appear in the darker areas and the photo quality is not as outstanding. So if you need to have some close lighting for scenes with movement, it does a good job if you have very good lighting, but it does a good job if you have very good lighting. But it does a good job if you have very good lighting. If you find yourself in shadows or areas with lower lighting, it might not be capable of providing a satisfactory experience. When it comes to macro photography, this is about as close as you can get, and I personally find the results quite pleasing. So even though it lacks a dedicated macro camera, I believe it delivers a solid performance. This device does include a high-resolution mode, which attempts to utilize all the information available on the sensor. However, it's important to note that it doesn't truly seem like all these pixels are accurately represented. Therefore, we could say that it's somewhat of a... I must admit that I don't truly appreciate the artificial detail. I had also neglected to demonstrate the panorama mode to you, which unfortunately doesn't offer high resolution. Therefore, I wouldn't highly recommend it for wide shots. When it comes to portrait photography, do note that it provides excellent object detection and applies a nice blur effect. Interestingly, it also enables us to achieve a telephoto perspective with a 2x zoom. Although the detail level isn't the highest, I do believe it will deliver a good quality of photographs overall. The portrait photography is possible thanks to this telephoto perspective. So portrait photography can be something remarkable. Consider, for example, in this case that it's a backlit portrait, and we also have a rather complicated hair area that it doesn't solve perfectly, but for the price range. I think the result is really very good for portrait photography. For video recording, it's remarkable that Infinix offers 4K resolution with both rear and front cameras at 30 FPS, delivering outstanding detail. Recording at 60 FPS is also available for both cameras. The quality selector is handy for quickly switching settings. Unlike many other manufacturers, Infinix offers several video recording options. For example, there are color filters available, but they only work in full HD, not in 4K resolution. Besides color filters, you can add frames to create a cinema effect with black bands, or use a vignette or small mask to mimic an old film interface. These kinds of effects are really helpful in saving you time during later editing or similar tasks. Additionally, it introduces the portrait video option, which we will explore shortly. There is also one more option for beauty effects on the skin, but this is only available with HD resolution. So, while it offers interesting options, they don't work with the highest video quality. Moreover, when recording a video, you'll notice that the button for taking pictures is available, along with a button to pause or resume our content. Also, take note that we also have a slider for zooming, and interestingly, it doesn't work in the reverse direction like most cell phones do, which can make interacting with this slider a bit unusual. Additionally, at the top, we have the control for the flashlight. I appreciate that it offers us 3 different levels, which is unlike what other manufacturers provide. The outcome of the recording is definitely nice in terms of detail level. Most devices within this price range only allow recording in full HD, and so I believe it can become outstanding in terms of detail, which is slightly below the level of 4K, but it does provide us a more detailed image. And as you can see, in this case, with outdoor scenes, we also get a good color rendition and a white balance that appears stable enough. The same concept applies to the focus. As we observed in this clip, the stabilization might actually be a disadvantage, and we verify this observation in the following clip. Notice that when you're walking, you can already see that the movements are excessively aggressive. Therefore, if you plan to run, for instance, or capture scenes with significantly more action, the outcome will be a disastrous comment. Additionally, observe that the zoom quality is quite basic. It cannot recover much detail, and once again, there is a noticeable lack of stabilization. Makes the zooming experience quite poor. I absolutely do not recommend this phone for recording at long distances. In backlit scenarios, it struggles to deliver the same quality as in photography, often overexposing and burning the brightest areas. If a face is detected, it's better to record with the light in front rather than behind. Indoors, the recording quality seems adequate. It doesn't seem to have issues with noise or dull colors, so the image quality is quite decent. However, the absence of stabilization makes it a poor choice for video recording. At night, you'll notice it struggles more than it should, with significant noise, especially if there's some lighting present within the frame. If there isn't a light source directly visible in the scene, the result might be good, but when recording very dark areas, you'll notice that the level of detail is quite minimal. And it's definitely quite weak in this aspect. The focus generally stays stable most of the time, however. If there are very abrupt changes, it might become slightly frozen at moments. Overall, I would say it performs well in this parameter. Interestingly enough, it will also provide us with a portrait recording mode, which certainly offers a very basic quality. To begin with, the detail level is quite low, and even without much movement, the artificial contours become quite noticeable. In fact, the effect switches off if it stops detecting a face, and it also turns off rather abruptly if I move slightly farther from the scene, instead of transitioning smoothly. Luckily, it attempts to keep some objects in focus, but it's a mode that's not recommended. This device also provides a slow motion mode, though it lacks speed customization, operating at 120 frames per second in HD only. Meanwhile, the fast camera allows full configuration, though its basic speed is 15x, which might be too quick for people's movements, in addition to which, as you realize, is not stabilized, but it can be used very well for landscapes, as it allows you to go up to 5400x speed, with which you could record breathtaking landscapes. But of course, it must be on a base. With the front camera, many things that we already saw from the rear camera are replicated. For example, something positive is that it records in K and the level of detail is much higher than what other devices offer. Although in this case the color is not as accurate, and again the lack of stabilization could work against it. Also, recording against the backlight, it is evident that it will not have a very positive performance, as it will completely burn the most illuminated areas of the background, so it is not recommended to record in this type of lighting conditions. Indoors there is a little more noise than we would like, but it still maintains good color saturation, and at night there is even more noise, although again it still maintains high color saturation. Colors. And if you're shooting close to a light source, the outcome could still be favorable. However, if you move to darker areas, it will be highly recommended that you turn on the front flash, which definitely provides a significant amount of help. It has 3 intensity levels, but even when you use the front flash, you will notice that there is still quite a lot of noise present. So it's a tool that assists you considerably, yet the result is still not as high quality as we would have preferred. Interestingly, the video recording with portrait effect is also available here on the front camera. It seems to me that the result can still attract attention, especially if you remain somewhat static. However, with more sudden movements, you may notice a significant amount of artificial blur at the edges. Obviously, I won't be able to keep objects in the foreground focus, so it is really intended for use primarily with your face. It also includes the fast motion mode, maintaining the same settings that we observed in the rear camera. This means there's a lot of speed, although in this instance, we don't have the front slow motion available. However, what we do find is the dual recording mode, which stands out significantly, especially for the promotional price range. It's important to note that you have a pick mode, which even allows you to move this box around, but it stops on the right side and doesn't allow resizing. Fortunately, if you keep the autofocus on, it functions well. And it also keeps the zoom option enabled. Although, as we already observed, the zoom quality isn't the best, it still allows you to record in a dual mode, fulfilling all the functions one might expect. In fact, it also allows you to rotate the focus to either the front or rear camera, depending on your preference. Moreover, if you stop recording and then start it again, you can activate a split screen mode, which is useful if you prefer both contents to be displayed in equal sizes. And it keeps focus along with the ability to zoom in and out. Regarding the software, this device is equipped with XOS in its version 14.5, which is based on Android 14. Unfortunately, it lacks a clear update policy, making its future somewhat uncertain. This is likely one of its weakest aspects, although within this price range, very few manufacturers commit to providing numerous updates. In terms of customization, it's worth noting that there are default themes available, although in this instance there is only one theme provided, but also you can access an online store to buy new themes. These mainly change the wallpaper and slightly customize icons, but it's not as extensive as on some devices. It also includes an animated wallpaper center and always on display, with exclusive animations for this model. You can select elements like the weather and the number of steps and a bit of physical activity. Furthermore, you can choose from digital clocks, analog options, or even some custom styles with text and similar features. However, despite the name always on display, there will indeed be moments when the screen turns off. It will show the clock and your watch face for just a few seconds, but as you notice, after a short period, it will turn off entirely to conserve battery. Therefore, it doesn't function as a true always-on display mode to the fullest extent. You will notice that it also includes a bit of editing for the lock screen, allowing us to modify the clock by selecting a different mode of this digital clock or switch to an analog clock. Additionally, you can change the typography and the colors, offering basic customization options. Moreover, it enables you to adjust the way notifications are displayed and, of course, the corner shortcuts for the lock screen. We also have this carousel option if you want the background to keep changing, which I mentioned earlier that I personally don't like. Interestingly, in this section, we find some widgets directly on the screen. While we can't customize them, it's interesting to see these shortcuts. On the main screen, we also find a feature called Zero Screen, providing a bit more information. Through various widgets and recommended application shortcuts, the device additionally allows you to create animation videos for the call screen, and it even includes a suggestion widget. As you can observe, within the apps there's also another one named Match Freezer. This app lets us put into deep sleep any app that you might not be using frequently, but still wish to keep installed for whenever you might need it. We will also discover the dynamic bar, similar to Apple's Dynamic Island. It shows when the device is using facial recognition or receiving a call, and it's also for the voice recorder, a loading animation, and the media player. It seamlessly adds controls, providing not just animation, but interaction, which is a significant advantage in this price range. Please note that the sidebar will also be available, allowing us to open applications in a floating window format. This feature supports 2 applications floating simultaneously on the screen. Notably, YouTube and Instagram are compatible. Overall, I think it performs quite well. You can resize these small windows or even snap these applications to the side for minimize them. But interestingly, you have the ability to minimize only one. Observe that from the recent apps list, you have the option to transform certain apps into split screen mode, allowing you to run 2 apps simultaneously, and these apps will stay linked in the recent list. Additionally, be aware that here you can blur some applications if you prefer not to see the thumbnail, or you can also choose to block them. This way, when you close all the controls, these applications will still remain linked in the recent list. That you have blocked remain open, and please note that this side panel will change depending on the apps you are using. So, for instance, if you are in a video app like YouTube, new options will appear such as taking a screenshot, screen recording, or even activating the Do Not Disturb mode. You can also activate a different view of notifications to prevent the traditional balloons from appearing. Additionally, while you are in a video call, be aware that some other options will also appear. For instance, you have the ability to record calls, and you can even modulate your voice to alter how it sounds, serving as an example. Additionally, we will discover a fill light option that can illuminate the screen's edges or enable the use of the front flash. This is particularly useful if you are on a video call in a dimly lit environment, allowing you to enjoy all these enhancements. Furthermore, we encounter the Timoji feature, which lets you add and mount a character over your face. And naturally, you can customize and introduce new characters as well. Characters. However, the customization is quite regionalized, which means it can be somewhat challenging to find the perfect design that suits you personally. But I definitely believe it's quite interesting to have these kinds of options available. Additionally, we're going to discover the option to replace the background. It's important to note that you have the ability to blur it, or alternatively, you can change it to a landscape or something similar. And however, it's worth mentioning that you can't add your own images. And if you frequently use WhatsApp, you will appreciate that this device includes a variety of special options. For instance, it offers the ability to turn on the flashlight, utilizing it as a LED for notifications. Additionally, it provides the option to record calls, as I previously mentioned. Moreover, it features a quick view mode, which allows you to read messages without having to open them in WhatsApp, meaning they won't be marked as read. For example, notice that I will send a message, and in this case I have just received it, obviously. I'll have to say that from the notification you can see some information, but if the message is too long, you will not be able to see the whole message. In fact, if you receive several messages, you will notice that sometimes it is impossible to read them in the notification. But through this tool, you can access to read these messages, including the time, and as you realize, the sender does not realize that these messages have already been read. So, these types of add-ons for WhatsApp, in my opinion, could be among its most appealing sections. As you can see, it includes a sticker generator with packs, which makes creating stickers much easier. Additionally, it allows you to save the statuses that your contacts upload. In fact, it even provides a feature for cleaning up WhatsApp in case your device is filling up quickly. That's why I emphasize that all the additional features related to WhatsApp are quite attractive and worth considering. We are also going to discover a Smart Center, which is the name they have chosen for a type of floating clipboard. This clipboard will be available to us, for instance, when we are in the gallery. You can easily drag content to this clipboard, allowing you to reuse it later in any other app. For example, in WhatsApp, you can drag it to send these photos. Interestingly, it features a one-handed mode, although it's hidden in the quick settings and reach options. Quick settings can't be done with just one, so I think this needs improvement. However, you can enable it here, and it works well because it resizes both horizontally and vertically. Though it still keeps the screen quite high and doesn't let us resize this mini screen. But it's good. It also lets you take screenshots by swiping 3 fingers down, including traditional scrolling screenshots, on any kind of content to have extended snapshots. Concerning artificial intelligence, there are numerous options that the manufacturer includes, which is quite surprising considering it is a device that is not too costly. However, it does feature, for instance, a wallpaper generator powered by artificial intelligence, where you can select one of your images to alter the style, or you can create a wallpaper based on text. Alright, so let's begin with the initial option, which involves having various categories. For instance, we can pick this game section and choose one of the images we have already captured. After that, the device will process for a moment. Keep in mind that in this scenario, an internet connection is needed, and there's also a limit on the number of creations you can make. So you can't just continuously create image after image. However, observe how in this instance it even managed to create an intriguing transition. And there is our image right there. The result, in my opinion, is quite attractive and fun to look at. As you can see, there are several different categories of photographs that you could end up having, each with its own unique style. You could even transform your pets into a kind of caricature or something similar to that. And when it comes to text, we are going to have the possibility to write something and then select its style. For example, let's go ahead and select games. And I'm going to type in the prompt, lion roaring in the jungle. Let's create this and see the result. We're waiting a few seconds for it to work. Remember, it needs internet. And presto, here's the outcome. It's surreal, but there it is. Infinix has a voice assistant called Folax, which isn't available in Spanish. However, in available languages, it's gaining more capabilities. He can set up multiple features on your cell phone, but you can also request information from him and he will have a solid comprehension. As you can observe within its dedicated application, you can discover all its functionalities. However, I must emphasize, it currently lacks the capability to communicate in Spanish. Nevertheless, I believe it possesses excellent features detailed here, enabling you to utilize it effectively in English. Additionally, within the notepad, we also have various artificial intelligence tools available. For instance, there's an option for start by sketching a basic doodle, then turn it into a detailed image. Let's attempt this again with a small lion. Let's find out if I can accomplish it. Honestly, I'm not great at drawing, but let's see if the artificial intelligence can identify my attempt at a lion and what it turns into. Watch closely. I believe it interpreted it more as a cat. However, ultimately, it will mostly depend on how well you can draw. The truth is, I'm not a good drawer at all, so I can't blame the artificial intelligence for thinking it was a cat instead of a lion. And well, all of this also needs an internet connection, and those will be the results you might expect. Also, if you have large blocks of text, you can select them, and this tool called Ask AI will appear, which allows you to generate text, optimize it, or correct it grammatically. So, let's choose the text generator and observe how, based on the text I have selected, it attempts to create a somewhat longer text. Watch as it begins typing and continues until we instruct it to stop or until it hits its limit. This feature can be particularly interesting for extending text when creativity is lacking. And that's not all. It also includes an optimizer option that doesn't divide into bullets, but at the very least it will make an effort to first synthesize the text a bit more, improve your writing, and then you'll be done. Ultimately, we will have a grammar checker that, upon detecting any errors, will have the capability to make annotations. It will not only correct spelling, but also address grammar issues, which is crucial. Additionally, in the gallery, you'll find that we will also feature an artificial intelligence eraser. The first time you run this tool, it might take a bit longer to become available. However, there are instances when it appears to encounter difficulties in accessing it to the function. However, if you really insist, you can go ahead and finally activate it. It's important to note that in this particular case, it won't truly possess intelligent recognition. Even though it claims to be an artificially intelligent eraser, it doesn't actually appear to utilize generative artificial intelligence. Instead, it merely attempts to fill in the gaps based on the surrounding pattern. Ultimately, the quality of the eraser isn't quite as advanced as what we observe on other devices. In security, we may encounter a reader. Optical fingerprint reader embedded in the screen. It's great that it's integrated into the screen. Appealing for the price range, promo price, even at the cost of. Launches aren't common, so they're pleasantly surprising. Plus, as a fingerprint reader within the screen, it will let us change the impact when creating the recognition if you want to customize the one you prefer most. Additionally, please note that it is equipped with facial recognition, which you can utilize if you choose to do so. But remember that it is not 100% safe because it is only in 2 dimensions. Actually, the device itself provides this warning, along with the additional tools. Keep in mind that it includes some filters designed to block numbers, preventing you from receiving unwanted calls. Additionally, it features an application lock, allowing you to secure access with your fingerprint or a pattern, providing a second layer of verification before anyone can open an app. Furthermore, it offers X-Hide, which functions as a secure folder. In this folder, you can store images, applications, documents, or recordings, ensuring all your private content is kept safe and secure there. Moreover, there is an option named Blank Data, which enables you to provide applications that requested with your empty contact list. Additionally, it offers your call log, messages, and calendar events. However, it does not permit you to specifically choose the applications, which I believe would be more beneficial. Furthermore, it includes the X-Clone option, allowing you to create 2 separate instances of any application directly on your phone, enabling you to manage 2 accounts. Additionally, it features an option called an anti-spy filter. Is a type of window that lets you obscure everything around you, ensuring that people nearby cannot see your entire conversation or similar things. You have the option to adjust the opacity level to your preference, and that's it. Additionally, it features a secure keyboard that is designed not to gather any sensitive information when you input pins or passwords. Furthermore, it includes a repair mode that enables you to lock the contents of your cell phone. You can also take a screenshot to send to a technician. Note, it has a child mode useful for lending your phone to a child, allowing you to authorize only certain apps. We can also set a time or data usage limit and enable eye care and low battery protection automatically, plus get alerts for poor posture. In this mode, children won't have the ability to access anything else, just the content that you have specifically authorized for them. To exit, they will need to authorize using a special pattern, of course. Additionally, this device includes several theft alerts. For instance, you can set a requirement for a password to be entered before the phone can be turned off. Moreover, if someone attempts to unlock your phone multiple times without success, it can take a screenshot as evidence. In this situation, the photos have the ability to be synchronized with the Infinix Cloud by activating the Find My Device options specifically developed by Infinix. Therefore, besides Google's features, Infinix provides additional tools that might prove useful. For instance, the function that takes a picture of whoever is attempting to unlock your cell phone could be appealing. Moreover, it includes another anti-theft alert, such as if you leave your phone charging in a public area and it gets disconnected, it will immediately, if someone unplugs your headphones, it will start ringing if your device is set up that way. That's why I stress these tools are very useful, along with all the Google tool suites. In the description, there's a link to learn about them. It doesn't include Android secure browsing, but all other Google developed options are available. The battery has a capacity of 5000 mAh. During our test, we noticed that the processor doesn't perform very efficiently. When you push the device to its limits to download quickly, it results in about an hour less battery life compared to other devices with similar capacity. Therefore, for highly demanding activities, this device won't provide extended usage time. For everyday use, I believe it will provide what you might call the standard battery life. Fortunately, it includes both the traditional battery saver mode and an ultra saver mode, which could be particularly helpful in certain emergency situations. The charger that comes with it is 33 watts. In my testing, with 15 minutes of charging, it regained about 28%. After 30 minutes, it reached 52%, and the full charge was completed in approximately 1 hour and 10 minutes. I think this can be a very strong point, especially if you find yourself in the promotional price range, although in the launch price range it would not be disappointing either. But in the promotional price range it becomes very impressive, because most devices that have a price close to $150 charge very slowly, and to cover the durability of the battery, this device integrates an artificial intelligence algorithm to try to learn your charging routine and prevent the device from overcharging for a long time. So if you usually leave it plugged in, it will charge very slowly. It will charge much slower if you do it routinely. Otherwise, it is more advisable to use the charge restriction function integrated into this device, which is beneficial for the battery as it stops charging once it reaches a certain percentage. Then, the energy is directly transferred to the processor and other components. Therefore, if you want to engage in, for example, very long gaming sessions without depleting the battery, you can activate this option, which turns out to be quite an attractive feature that is not yet very common to find in all devices. Regarding connectivity, we will encounter G, which might seem disappointing given the launch price, because I believe it's becoming more common to find devices with G. Fortunately, in this case, there is a data blocking option available, allowing you to specify through software which applications can access the internet using your mobile data and which should only connect via Wi-Fi. By the way, this device features Wi-Fi 5, so you don't get such high download speeds with mobile data or Wi-Fi. It doesn't have eSIM support, but it does feature Bluetooth 5.4 and NFC for mobile payments with Google Wallet or other apps. It supports FM radio, requiring headphones as an antenna. It also has OTG for connecting accessories via USB-C and wireless screen projection, albeit in a basic format. It's mirrored, of course not. It can transmit via cable, but if you own the Android Auto One, there's some excellent news for you. Its proximity sensor is a physical one, in contrast to many other devices that cut costs by using virtual sensors, which often don't work well. Therefore, you won't have any complaints regarding the sensors here. However, it's worth mentioning that it doesn't include infrared, unlike some other devices that do. Now, let's discuss the ecosystem a bit. This may differ across regions, but at least in Mexico, Infinix doesn't offer a catalog of. Google Home doesn't include accessories like watches, headphones, tablets, or other items you can connect to your phone, allowing everything to interact smoothly. Actually, even within its services, it relies heavily on various Google features, although in some other countries, it might offer more advanced services. For instance, in Mexico, there's Infinix Cloud, which is available, but it mainly serves to back up simple notes or booby Wi-Fi passwords. Unfortunately, it doesn't let you back up files or anything similar. In that regard, you would still depend on Google Drive. Additionally, it features its own app specifically for managing health-related things, and it already has a dedicated store called the Palm Store. Therefore, Infinix does appear to provide some of its own services. However, in certain countries, it chooses to prioritize Google services. For instance, for controlling home devices, Google Home is necessary, yet it isn't even pre-installed. So, I believe that in terms of ecosystems, it feels like a much shorter experience compared to other smartphones from different brands. Let's proceed with our performance test by conducting the traditional application opening test. This device features the MediaTek Helium G processor, which honestly does not show a very significant improvement compared to other models in the G series. It is equipped with 8 GB of RAM, so let's observe how it handles these tests. On average, it took approximately 4 to 5 seconds to open each of these 12 applications. In this instance, I did not run 16 applications, as I typically do on devices that are a bit more expensive in this range. The promotional price range, in fact, I usually test with only 8 applications. Then I wanted to find a balance, more or less. The speed, I think, is more or less as expected within this price range, and it does not disappoint. This case observes that apparently yes, it handles the RAM it has quite well, which is 8 GB. This is a very positive feature in its price range, as we typically find devices with only 6 GB of RAM. Even within the promotional price range, other manufacturers often include just 4 GB of RAM. So, in this regard, I believe we actually find one of its strengths, because it enables us to maintain smooth operation of several applications simultaneously without necessarily experiencing many restarts. This aspect really stands out, because having 8 GB of RAM allows for a more seamless multitasking experience, ensuring that applications run smoothly without frequent interruptions or the need to restart them often. This is especially beneficial for users who rely on running multiple applications at the same time, as it significantly enhances the overall performance and efficiency of the device. Additionally, keep in mind that the power of this processor isn't the most advanced. Therefore, when dealing with very complex graphic effects, you might notice that they won't be processed at full capacity or with high speed. However, when it comes to simpler effects, you'll observe that the processor can handle them more easily. So let me select some more basic effects. Notice these kinds of effects don't demand much advanced processing power, allowing them to run more smoothly. Let's scroll through these social feeds, and without, the device handles problems well, running smoothly without freezing, which makes its performance potentially a strong point. Occasionally, when you rapidly switch between applications and begin scrolling, you might notice slight stumbles, but it's nothing too serious. Within its price range, as you can see, it performs remarkably well. The manufacturer hasn't provided specific information about the storage version available, but when it comes to reading speeds, it's noted that at times it appears to exceed 900 megabytes per second. However, it generally stays just a bit lower than that. This does not come as a bad surprise at all. In fact, there are times when it even exceeds 1000 megabytes per second. In terms of write speed, it is almost always around 300 megabytes per second. Honestly, this is very similar to what we have tested on other devices regarding write speed. Perhaps the read speed falls a little short of expectations, but considering the price range, I think we cannot complain much. We can't afford to be too picky. However, let's proceed to a real-world test where the processor, RAM, and storage work together to deliver the best performance possible. In this scenario, we are opting to use LumaFusion rather than CapCut, because interestingly, in CapCut, the video, it stays compressed with the device. Record in 4K, let's try exporting this video in 4K. Remember that it is a project that uses videos recorded with this cell phone that in total add up to a duration of 1 min, and that's it. It took 42 S. Considering that it is a video in 4K, I think the performance is correct. By the way, I forgot to mention that another strong point of this device is that it has 256 GB of internal storage, although we already saw that the speed is not so high, but due to the large capacity it has, if it can be considered. A strong point is you can add a micro SD up to 1 terabyte. The RAM also includes 5 additional GB of virtual RAM. Personally, I prefer not to use virtual RAM, especially when there's plenty of physical RAM. I would disable it, but it's enabled by default. For gaming, there's an app called X Arena, a special suite to manage all your content. Once installed, it also provides you with a quick overview of the system's performance regarding CPU and RAM usage, as well as storage and even GPU usage. Additionally, it shows temperature, battery, and Wi-Fi status. It's important to note that for each game, you have the option to select a custom performance profile. And this is useful if you want to save energy or if you prefer to maximize performance. In fact, it even allows you to tweak certain settings of the GPU, which is something that in the range of the price is quite unusual, which confirms that it might be specially targeted at gamers. Additionally, it allows you to adjust various settings on the network. It's important to note that when running these contents, more options appear through this small sidebar. To begin with, we receive some detailed information about the current status of the phone. Furthermore, there are shortcuts to applications in floating mode, enabling you to reply to a message or check information without having to exit your game. Then, we will once more locate the current performance monitoring, which includes a frames per second counter. However, it cannot remain floating constantly. You have to open the side panel to view that information. It will also provide us with screenshot tools, Wi-Fi latency management, and storage cleanup, along with brightness control. Additionally, we discover other options to enhance the image quality. An option is available for charging restriction, which aims to charge the current directly to the device, bypassing the battery entirely. Additionally, we offer an off-screen game feature designed to temporarily suspend the screen during content downloads within a game, thereby reducing high battery consumption. Furthermore, there is an option to hide notifications to prevent interruptions, along with a barrier mode that displays WhatsApp messages. In another format, and please take note that the messages will be displayed within this narrow strip which is scrolling towards the screen length, so you can customize your behavior a little. We will also discover how to prevent it. Accidental gestures can be disabled, and you can turn off screenshots with on-screen gestures. Additionally, you have surround sound. An intriguing feature is the magic bottom, which lets us map the volume buttons to function as virtual buttons. So, take note that I have the ability to position the virtual buttons right above the game options. Now, when I use the volume up button, you'll see that I will activate this button. Similarly, the same action can occur with the other buttons. Volume down is one. It's a nice way to add touch triggers, especially on a device that won't be too expensive. Now, let's move on to the results of our evaluations and examinations on Call of Duty. This device by default provides us with average graphics quality at an average frame rate. However, we can increase the frames per second, but it certainly lacks access to a variety of effects. Only some are available. Therefore, it is not a processor that is highly focused on delivering a top-notch gaming experience. In the end, we can definitely have two perspectives for analysis due to the current strategy that Infinix is employing, especially considering the price. The launch is definitely not worth it, as there will be much more advanced options available in that price range. However, for the promotional price, I believe the performance might be acceptable. It's important to mention that by default, the device records your screen in HD at 24 frames per second. But if it allows us to upload, and in this case the recordings we did in full HD at 60 frames per second, then while recording, the screen might experience some slight stumbles, but really it's nothing significant. Seriously, I believe that at the promotional price it would be a great alternative, especially if you enjoy recording gameplays, given the capability to record at 60 frames per second. However, it's worth mentioning that the heating did get a bit high, not anything too serious, but still something to consider. Ultimately, the experience will largely depend on the price point. In the Legends game, we adjusted the automatic setting to a lower quality setting, maintaining the 60 frames per second. In this situation, the performance was actually quite good, even while recording the screen. It might experience some stumbles occasionally, but overall nothing major. Without recording the screen, it performed nearly perfectly, even without excessive heating or anything extreme, and in this scenario. It also displayed good temperature management. Of course, you need to adjust the graphics quality relative to its price. In the SpongeBob game, the resolution and quality are set to a medium level. For the test, we maintained it there, reaching up to 60 frames per second. In this instance, we choose. We have a graphic configuration that aligns with the launch price, and indeed it might fall short with this particular setup. However, if we had taken its promotional price into account, we would have chosen a lower quality option. This is why I don't appreciate these types of strategies. They tend to complicate the analysis. We could say that if you manage to find it at the promotional price, you'll have a good gaming experience. On the other hand, if you come across it at the launch price, I wouldn't advise purchasing it because the quality will be lacking, and you might not enjoy your gaming experience. So if you see it at the launch price, I wouldn't recommend buying it, as you might discover that it doesn't meet your expectations for smooth gameplay. There are better options for playing, but overall it performs well. Lastly, we tried Genshin Impact by default. It starts on very low graphics quality. In this instance, we increased it to 60 frames per second to check if it could provide a good experience. We set motion blur to low quality, and as you can see, it was quite unstable. There were numerous fluctuations, yet the device did not completely freeze or anything of that sort. So depending on your expectations, it can still offer a positive gaming experience. If you're a gamer and find this device at its launch price, I believe there are better gaming options. However, at a promotional price, it might be a good choice if you're okay with lower graphic quality yet still want a smooth experience. Notice, for example, it didn't drop below 28 frames per second. Not bragworthy, but I think it's a decent game. Still, it all depends on the price. In conclusion, this device is appealing at the promo price, offering a good screen and sound, though it has only one microphone, which is not ideal. The cameras are decent, the battery is reliable, and fast charging is efficient. Performance at the promo price is positive, so it depends on the cost. It bothers me that Infinix sets a high launch price, then offers an aggressive promo, but okay. I believe it can attract gamers who prefer not to spend a lot on the volume button mapping feature, especially since the performance was quite good. We've now reached the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to let us know, and we'll see you next time.